Morning, Jack.
Morning. How you doing, Commissioner?
I'm good. How you been?
I've been doing pretty good.
Yeah.
How's things over in your neck of the state?
Well, all things considering, better than has been. Not as good as it could be.
That's good. Looks like you got a little green there.
Yeah, we were talking about that a little while ago. That's wheat field here. Is that a picture you took?
I wish I could say I did. That's actually a screen capture from an Eagle cam up in Westminster, Colorado.
Oh, okay. That's a nice picture.
Yeah, it is. The camera itself, I don't think, is very far from the nest.
Yeah, it must be like in the branch next to it.
No, I think they have it up on a pole. I know I've seen some utilities will actually put them up on top of a pole if they have a pole that's looking over a nest.
Yeah,
This
that'd
one,
work.
this one unfortunately wasn't quite tall enough because you can't really see down into the nest. There's a baby in the nest right now.
Oh, really?
And for a long time, all you could see was its head. You couldn't see anything. Like when it got hungry, it would stick its head up. And that's all you can see. Now it's pretty good size. But
Well, the details on the feathers and stuff is really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an HD camera. And it's actually got sound and night vision too. So you can hear the noises around it and you can see them after dark.
Cool. So you pilfered that off of their website?
Yeah, off their video feed.
Yeah.
I just put it full screen and did a screen capture.
Cool. Looks like he's holding a mask. You see the little strings hanging?
Yeah, I think he probably is. You know, they got to be real careful with COVID up there. No, it's probably food.
Yeah, probably.
I was watching one time one of them, and I don't know whether it was mom or dad, brought in like this 2-foot brown trout.
Oh, wow.
I thought I wanted to go up there and raid that nest and have trout for dinner.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, the eagles in our area don't eat trout. They eat prairie dogs.
Yeah, I've seen some out in the wild, and I've gotten a few decent pictures, but unfortunately, I don't have a long enough lens to be able to pull them in very well.
You can get about, I don't know, 30, maybe 40 yards from them up there at the ranch. They'll sit there and watch you drive by, as long as you don't do anything to spook them, they'll just sit there and watch you drive by. Mm-hmm. But you can be easing along as long as you keep moving. You can just barely be rolling, and you can take pictures of them and stuff out the window of the truck,
Yeah, I think it's Zia Pueblo. It's either Zia or Zuni, right south of Grants.
Zuni.
Okay, it's Zuni. They actually have an eagle rescue facility.
Huh.
And they're licensed to keep eagles. And my bike club and I went out one time, and they, to look at it and see the eagles. They actually took us in the enclosure with the eagles. I mean, I wasn't more than 3 feet away from a lot of those eagles.
It's amazing how big they are when you're that close.
Mm-hmm.
They're sitting out on top of a power pole. You know they're big, but when they're sitting right there, arms length away, you're like, man, that's a big bird.
Yeah, and they all, of course, had some sort of issue with them that they could never be released back into the wild.
Yeah, that's too bad. Good for them, but it's too bad they can't be released.
But that was really interesting. Unfortunately, most of them didn't seem too interested in attacking us. So,
Yeah.
I've heard their talons and their beaks are pretty sharp.
I bet they are. You know, to grab a fish, a slimy little slippery fish in the water and jerk it out of the water, that's pretty good grip.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I wouldn't want one getting a hold of them.
They're pretty brave. I think I saw a YouTube video one time of an eagle going after a cheetah.
A cheetah?
Yeah.
Well, he must have been messing with the babies or something.
No, I think it was looking for dinner.
Well, the golden eagle's even bigger. They'll go after lambs and stuff. There's Commissioner Fishman. And Commissioner Hall. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Who am I speaking to?
Me.
It's Jeff. Whenever they say me, it's Jeff.
Jeff?
Yeah.
You sound different. I usually
Well, there
know
you
your
go.
voice.
I still look as bad as I used to.
No, he's still got the Yahweh look there with the background and the
What kind of look was that?
Yahweh.
What is
Yahweh.
that?
That's the Hebrew word for God.
Oh, yes. Okay, that makes sense. It's true. So,
You feeling good this week, Steve?
I felt like, okay, I was going to swear there. I felt awful until Monday.
Till Monday.
But
Wow.
I'm coming back.
Well, glad you're back.
Oh, no, you're not.
No, yeah.
Anyway.
I believe him. I think he's glad.
I think so too.
As a neighbor and friend, I never want ill to you.
Well, I feel the same way.
In the political arena, we will gleefully disagree at times, but on a personal level, I always wish you well.
Yeah, I wish you well until we disagree, but
see, I can appreciate that. That's just an honest response.
but I'm used to it. I'm a big boy. Well, kind of. Anyway, Sarah, can we get the agenda up on the screen and let's get started? I think we're all here. Teresa, are you on board? Commissioner?
Yes, good morning. I'm here.
Okay, great. And Commissioner Maestas?
I'm here, Skipper.
Okay,
I'm tuning in by phone. I'm in the
That's
Naruk
right. You're
rate
in
school, so I'm doing double duty.
Okay.
Will I get time and a half?
Sure, why not?
No, but budget's pretty thin. I don't know. Okay, just let us know, Sarah. We're still looking for the agenda here.
Oh, do you not see it? Okay, give me just a second.
No, we see your email.
Oh. Okay.
In the meantime, we do get to see Sarah's picture.
Yeah.
Looking pretty good.
Well, thank you. Okay, I'm going to try this again. Can you see the,
So we got it in, it's small.
It's
but we
small.
got
I'm
it.
going to make it bigger.
There we go. There we go. Okay, is Michael Smith, you around?
I am.
Okay, terrific. So give us the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, indivisible. Oh God, I got lost.
I think you're with liberty and justice for
Justice
all.
for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
And Mike is just back from vacation, so whatever that means. Consideration and approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second,
Mike, please call the roll.
I'll try and not mess that up.
Okay.
Commissioner Byrd,
Aye.
Commissioner Maestas,
Aye. Aye.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall,
aye.
Commissioner Fishman.
Aye.
Commissioners, the agenda is approved by a vote of 5-0.
Okay, Sarah, we just lost the agenda on the screen. But I don't
Commissioner
have the,
Fishman, this is Isaac. I think maybe her internet possibly dropped out because I was just host control just transferred to me. So
okay,
let me put up the agenda on my side here, and I'll transfer it back over to her whenever she reconnects.
thanks, Isaac.
One moment. Looks like she is back as host now.
So sorry, I got kicked off of my internet for some reason.
While you're bringing it up to the screen, is the next item special guests?
Yes, and we do not have any special guests
Okay.
or public comment this morning.
And then Sarah, the next item after that is,
It's consideration and approval of prior meeting minutes from April 14th and April 21st.
okay. Commissioners, any comments on that?
Mr. Chair, I'll move the minutes as presented.
Second,
Okay, Commissioner Byrd and Cynthia and Commissioner Hall seconded. Mike, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fishman,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall,
aye.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar,
Aye.
Commissioner Maestas,
Aye.
Commissioner Byrd.
Aye.
And for clarification, I don't think we said it verbally, but this is for the minutes of April 14 and the minutes of April 21. Next, we're on to consent action items. Any discussion? I will move to approve the consent agenda. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3.
Okay, that was helpful. We'll have Mike call the roll.
Commissioners, this is a vote on the consent action items. They are cases 20-0058 TRM in the matter of the application of the City of Las Cruces, DBA Las Cruces Fire Department for a certificate to provide ambulance service. This is a potential order regarding application for certificate. Case 21-00078 TRM in the matter of the application for the City of Texaco DBA Texaco Volunteer Fire and Rescue for an amendment to certificate number 52570. Potential order regarding application for amendment to certificate. Case 21-00085 TRM in the matter of the application of the City of Tucson Ambulance Service for reissuance of certificate number 02754 to provide ambulance service. Also a potential order regarding application for reissuance of certificate. And finally, case 21-00111 UT, application for approval of El Paso Electric Company's 2021 Renewable Energy Act plan pursuant to the Renewable Energy Act and 17.9.572 NMAC and fourth revised rate number 38 RPS cost rider. It's a potential order appointing hearing examiner. And I think that's it for consent action items. I'll call the roll. Commissioner Vicente Aguilar.
Aye.
Commissioner Byrd.
Aye.
Commissioner Fishman.
Aye.
Commissioner Maestas.
Aye.
Commissioner Hall.
Aye.
Commissioners, the consent action items are approved by a vote of 5-0.
Okay, on to regular action items. And we're looking at item 5, docket 21-00025 in the matter of the application of Superior Ambulance Service for amendment of certificate number 08616. Robert, welcome. Good to see you.
It's nice to see you, Chairman Fishman.
Yeah, and I wanted to thank you for the terrific info you sent me on the El Paso electric financing case. It really helped clarify things for me. So
My pleasure. Thank you.
just wanted to let you know, I really appreciate it. So take it away.
Okay, thank you. As directed, I will simply read my summary. For the record, I'm Robert Lennon. I'm a hearing examiner for the New Mexico Public Regulation Commission. This is case number 21-00025-TRM in the matter of the application of Superior Ambulance Service, Inc. for amendment of certificate 08616. And this is a very short summary. Superior Ambulance Service, Inc., Superior, filed an application seeking amendment of its certificate to remove the exclusion precluding operations in Torrance County. The commission, as normal, issued a notice stating the subject matter of the case before the commission, specifically stating applicant is seeking to remove the exclusion of providing ambulance service in Torrance County. One entity, American Medical Response Ambulance Services, aka AMR, filed a pleading entitled Motion to Intervene. It was actually amended twice, so there were 3 pleadings. In each of those pleadings, AMR stated and then reaffirmed that AMR has no objection to the relief requested by Superior as to Torrance County. Since the only issue before the commission is the removal of the Torrance County exclusion, and because there's no objection to the only issue before the commission, the motion to intervene is denied. I can deny it, and I did deny it. I denied it because there was, in effect, no actual protest. There being no actual protest, there is no grounds for the motion to intervene. Reading further, the motion to intervene is denied, and this hearing examiner recommends that the application be processed as uncontested. And that is my summary. And with that, I will rest and I welcome questions. Or we can go to Judy.
Let's go to Judy and then let's go to questions.
Yes, good morning, Commissioner Fishman and members of the commission. The proposed order would adopt the recommended decision in its entirety. No exceptions to the RD were filed. The result of the proposed order is that this matter will be returned to the Transportation Division to be processed as uncontested. As Robert stated, AMR has no objection to the relief requested by Superior as to Torrance County. And for that reason, there is no objection and to any of the matters that the application pertains to. I stand for questions.
Commissioners, any questions?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair,
Yeah, Commissioner Hall.
I just moved to approve the order.
Oh, okay, I didn't hear that, but
No,
We've
I
got
say
a-
I would just move to approve the order.
okay, great. I'll second. And barring further discussion, Mike, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Maestas,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar,
Aye.
Commissioner Byrd,
Aye.
Commissioner Fishman.
Aye.
The order is approved by a vote of 5-0.
They should all be so easy. Thanks, Robert.
Thank you, Chairman. May I be excused?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
On to item number 6, 21-109, in the matter of the application of Raton Natural Gas Company for expedited approval of its plan for recovery of the gas costs related to February 2021 severe weather event. And Judith, this one is yours.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. This matter comes before you today upon the application of Raton Natural Gas Company pursuant to Commission Rule 17.10.640. I'll call it Rule 640, sections 12F, 14, and 15. They are requesting an expedited approval of their plan to recover the extraordinary gas costs that it incurred as a result of the February 2021 extreme weather event. We have had several of these applications, and this is one more. RNG requests approval in time to begin recovery of these costs in its June 2021 bills. It must pay its supplier $1,078,322 on May 25th, 2021. Their proposal is to collect its cold weather event gas costs plus financing charges over a 60-month period with a 12% monthly increase cap on customers' bills. They also would like to implement a mitigation plan. In addition, to the extent required, RNG requests a variance from its approved PGAC to recover the weather event costs over a 60-month period by increasing its gas cost factor, as I stated, with a cap not to exceed 12%. They stated that they do not have sufficient cash reserves to pay these associated costs. Therefore, they secured a 12-month line of credit, which will allow them to borrow the $1,078,322 and pay it back over time. According to the application, this letter of credit is the least cost alternative, has a debt service borrowing rate of 4.25%, is prepayable at any time without penalty, and will be effective May 20th, 2021. RNG stated it must apply for reapproval of the line of credit from the lender at the end of each 12-month period. For these reasons, the schedule requested by RNG are that they would publish notice as soon as possible in the Albuquerque Journal, which is a newspaper of general circulation. Any person desiring to become a party would file a motion to intervene on or before May 18th. On May 19th, utility division staff and any interveners shall file direct testimony or a verified statement of position on the application. Also on March 19th, utility division staff and interveners shall file a written reply stating recommendation of approval or approval with conditions or disapproval, and stating the reasons why, and stating whether or not a hearing should be held. On May 25th, rebuttal testimony would be due. A proposed final order would be filed by RNG on May 26th, and a public hearing would be held on June 2nd to be presided over by the commission or by a designated presiding officer, so designated by subsequent single signature order of one commissioner. Subsequently, the commission can determine to cancel the public hearing. Regardless, there will be a public comment period on June 2nd for members of the public who are not protesters or interveners to comment on the proposed application, and public comments would be limited to 3 minutes per speaker unless extended by the commission. And so the proposed order sets forth the schedule and commences a proceeding and grants RNG's request for expedited action in accordance with the schedule I just detailed. And I stand for questions.
Commissioners?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Byrd.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Mayor.
Morning.
So one of the things that has come to my attention, come to mind, is how is Raton and New Mexico, but we're talking about Raton right now, how are they determining the amount each customer should pay?
That's a very good question, and I don't have the answer to that. It may be stated in the testimony, but the only thing I can say is there's the 12% monthly increase cap on customers' bills. So,
right. So
no customer, regardless of how much they pay, will be paying more than a 12% monthly increase.
I guess the concern that has been brought out is that some people made an effort to reduce their consumption during this time, whether electricity as their heat source or natural gas. They were watching the news, they were aware of the issue, so they used a point source propane heater, or they used their wood fireplace that they normally wouldn't use. You know, they heated their home in another manner, and now they're looking like they're still going to pay for the gas that they tried not to use. And so now they're being unfairly penalized for trying to be prudent in their consumption. And so I'm not criticizing, I guess, but I make sure that our gas companies are aware, electric companies too, that if their consumption went down, they shouldn't pay for more than what they actually used. You know, if somebody quit using their natural gas furnace during that cold period, they really didn't contribute to the $1 million extra bill, and they shouldn't be penalized. And so I just want to bring that to everybody's attention. Some people have said that they consciously turned down the thermostat really low so that their furnace wouldn't come on. They built a fire, kept their house warm that way. And they shouldn't be paying for this because they made a point not to use it. So I know somebody from Raton is listening, so I hope you guys have taken that into consideration and looked at the usage during that time. So anyway, that was my concern and questions. I know Ms. Amir wants to respond, and I look forward to that, but I'm through at this point, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Byrd, you may want to propose adding a question in this order for RNG to respond to, stating how they were going to allocate the cost, whether it was based upon annual usage or whether it was upon usage just during that month of February 2021.
I like that recommendation, and if it's okay with the other commissioners, I would like to add that question.
Other commissioners, any objections?
No, I have none.
No objection for me.
Okay. Commissioner Byrd, I guess I had just been assuming, and maybe stupidly so, that they would just take the actual gas usage and charge whatever the premium would have been on each customer's actual gas usage.
Yes, sir.
Am I missing something there?
I've been under that same assumption, but as I read through this, I didn't see anything that specifically said how customers' rates would be determined, and so that's why I'm asking.
Okay. Judy, any other questions from commissioners? Because I have one, if everyone's done. Okay. So I'm reading this, that the customers, in terms of the financing that Raton needs to get in order to stretch out the repayment, that in this case, they are proposing to charge the actual costs of the loan that they're taking out for this specific purpose. Am I correct in that, Judy?
That's the way I understood it, that they're taking out a line of credit and they're seeking to collect, and the line of credit is for the amount of what they say are the weather gas costs, which was $1,078,322, plus the financing charges, which they said were 4.25%.
Okay.
So they're requesting both. And they estimate that the debt service will be $111,000.
So I just wanted to say my initial reaction to that is that it really makes sense to charge the actual financing costs attached to the event to customers rather than some other, basket of charges or mix. I appreciate that they've focused, at least in their initial proposal, on the actual costs incurred. And I think that's a wise policy. I bring it up because there have been other proposals that don't do that. And I'd like everyone to look carefully at it before we, get too far down the road. Commissioner Hall, did you have a comment?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Mr.
Commissioners, any other input?
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar.
Yes. I'd like to ask a question to Judy. You said that the customers are gonna, if we approve this today, they're gonna see a 12% increase on their bill. can you give us an estimate of what that 12% means in the actual cost?
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar, today, the proposed order is just an initial order opening up a docket. We would not be approving the proposal. We set a schedule for intervention and for filing direct testimony, and we set a hearing date of June 2nd. That being said, they did not provide, for instance, it sounds like you want to know in real dollars, an average customer cost per month. And we could also include that as a question, that they provide an example of customer actual bill increases in real dollars, not in percent.
Yes, please. I would like to ask that question as one of the analysis that we would like to get a feedback on. And I would like to also ask what Commissioner Byrd referred to earlier, which is some customers decreased their natural gas consumption. And we'd like to see a graph of those customers that made an effort not to use natural gas during the coldest month of the year, just to cut costs. And I believe that it's unfairly if they are penalized for 12% increase, although they have made those attempts to cut their energy costs. Maybe that's something that we can look at during the hearings. Thank you, Judy.
Yes, so you would like us to request a certain average customer bill increase examples in real dollars. Is that correct?
No, my second concern that I expressed is that there's certain customers that made an effort to reduce their energy costs during the coldest month of the year. Are they going to be given some type of a credit instead of an automatic 12% increase?
I see. Oh, I understand.
Thank you, Judy.
I have one other question. Judy or commissioners, if you've got an answer. I don't think I ran into a single person who, at least in my area, had the foresight to think about the high gas costs and reduce their usage. So my question is, are you guys aware of any efforts that were made by the utilities to alert people and urge them to minimize their use just to reduce their costs?
Mr. Chair, this is Jeff.
Yeah, go ahead.
So over here, I don't know that utilities did a whole lot. That wasn't a criticism. I'm just saying. I don't know that there was a lot of outreach. I know XL did some, but in our area, we get Texas News. And on Texas News, they were asking people to do those very things and why. And as a result, local people, they tried to comply. As the guys, Lanny Nichols said, they pleaded with the customers to reduce their consumption, and they did across Texas. Mm-hmm. But that was in our news too. And so that was happening in our region as well, but we're in SPP as well.
Right.
But so I know some customers, I'm on propane and don't have electric for heat. So we were using wood stove well, it was cool here. We didn't get as cold as some parts did, but we were still below freezing for 3 days. So even I was making sure that we had a fire going the whole time to supplement our heat.
Right. So, I may have been in a little bit of a cocoon and missed it, but certainly going forward, when this kind of thing happens, you'd like it to sort of be an immediate alert to folks. It's not just trying to preserve resources so everybody has something. It's also to save yourself a heck of a lot of money if it's not our jurisdiction, but what I view from what I know was gas price gouging.
Right.
It'd be nice if there were warnings that were going out and that was just part of the routine. And I wouldn't exactly blame a utility that didn't do a great job of doing it, but it's an area where we could all do better. So perhaps do better. So I just wanted to get that out there. Okay, with that, I'm willing to, well, first of all, we've got 2 amendments. One from Commissioner Vicente Aguilar and one from Commissioner Byrd. And Judy, if you could quick read those, I will move the amendments and we can vote on those.
Well, I will do my best. I believe that Commissioner Byrd wanted us to ask RNG how the costs will be allocated on a per customer basis, and whether it will be based upon usage during the month of February 2021, or whether it will be upon historical annual usage. And as a corollary to that, I believe that Commissioner Vicente Aguilar wanted to ask a question about whether whether they have tracked each individual's customer's usage of February 2021. And for those customers that decrease their usage, will they be given some sort of special consideration on the bill increases?
Okay.
And if I forgot something, please correct.
So Commissioner Byrd or Commissioner Vicente Aguilar, any corrections to that?
No.
Okay, we're
No.
good. With that, I'll move the amendments.
So
Do we
moved.
have a second?
Second.
Okay, terrific. Mike, can you call the roll?
Commissioner Fishman,
Aye.
Commissioner Byrd,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner Maestas,
Aye.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar.
Aye.
The amended order is approved by a vote of 5-0.
Okay, I think we just approved the amendments there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was a unified vote.
Okay, so yeah, is anyone? I will move then the order.
Second.
As amended. I'll second that.
Okay.
Okay, so Mike, can you please call the roll on that?
Commissioner Fishman,
Aye.
Commissioner Byrd,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner Maestas,
Aye.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar.
Aye.
Commissioner, now the order is approved by a vote of 5-0.
Terrific.
You'll note I did it in the same order as the prior vote.
Uh-oh, do we have to redo it now? I'm kidding.
No.
I'm kidding. Okay, in the matter of the commission's adoption of rules pursuant to the Community Solar Act, this is docket 21-1 double lot 112. And Russell, please do it for us.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I have my name on the agenda. I neglected to add Commissioner Maestas' name. He may have some comments after I make my initial presentation, as this is his proposed order. As I said in my memo, this is Commissioner Maestas' proposed order, but I recommend adoption of this order. It's a fairly bare bones initial order for this rulemaking. It opens the docket. It lays out the commission's extensive duties under the Community Solar Act in terms of rulemaking. I decided to put all of that language in there because might as well have it there. It's quite a daunting list. It describes the role of strategy and consulting, the contractor that the commission has retained for services in this matter. And it briefly describes the team that has been put together by Commissioner Maestas, which includes myself, Commissioner Hall, the Chief of Staff, John Reynolds, Arthur O'Donnell, Sarah Valencia. Gee, and I hope I'm not forgetting anybody. Anyhow, I think that was everybody. Oh, and also members of ASD for the issue of the contract. The proposed order does not set up any workshops or any other proceedings at this point. It just opens the docket because there's going to be some preliminary work that needs to be done before even a procedural roadmap can be established. I did participate in a meeting of the team this week, and I think we made some good progress. But Strategen is committed to working with us on and conducting at least one workshop. So we want to make sure that we have everything ready in terms of notifying potential participants and informing them of the subjects that they need to think about to be ready for the workshop, because we want the workshop to really work and to count. I guess the Strategen contract is also still pending approval at DFA. So, we haven't been able to begin contact, I guess, with Strategen. And we'll want to make sure that the workshop, this initial workshop, possibly the only workshop, will be, that we get the most bang for our buck if that's our only workshop. So with that, I would turn it over to Commissioner Maestas if he has any comments, and I will also take any questions.
Thank you, Russell. I think the entire kind of history and even the status of community solar is in the order. I think Russell has laid out a real logical start to the procedure. We're making great progress. As Russell mentioned, we're awaiting approval of Strategen's contract. Once we have that, we will caucus with Strategen, and at that point, we would kind of lay out the roadmap for this rulemaking in community solar. One thing I did want to mention is that we're really trying to cast our net far and wide to ensure that we include appropriate individuals, utilities, entities, advocacy organizations. So we're going all the way back to the Community Solar Working Group that produced many recommendations that made their way into the current bill. And we're looking into the adding the list that was involved in the interconnection guidelines update effort, because there is a nexus between, obviously interconnection and community solar. So I just want to put it out there for folks that want to be involved to let us know, and we can add them to the list, because we want to make sure that this effort is as inclusive and transparent as possible. So with that, Mr. Chair, those are the only comments I had, and I would move to approve the order as presented.
I'll second that.
Mr. Chairman?
So we've got a motion from Commissioner Maestas, a second from Commissioner Hall. Further discussion from commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Vicente Aguilar. I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Can I get an answer why it's taking a little bit longer from DFA to approve this contract?
Commissioner,
That could be Jim Williamson or you, Russell, if you want to feel that.
I was just actually going to say, Commissioner Maestas, that I don't have the answer to that. We would have to, yeah, Jim Williamson would be the person to ask. I don't know if he is on the line or if anyone else from ASD would be aware of why that's taking a bit longer.
And as I understand it, it takes basically 2 agency approvals, General Services and DFA. That could be one of the reasons why. I think it's only been a week since we submitted the executed contract. But Jim mentions that it takes about 3 weeks normally for both agencies to process approval.
Mr. Chairman, this is
so
Wayne.
we're only 1 week.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, it's Wayne. Sorry, Commissioner Maestas, I didn't mean to jump in on you there, but I would also add that we are at the end of the fiscal year. So it is a busy time for both DFA and GSD. All state agencies are trying to get their year-end contracts in and spend what's remaining in their FY22 budget. So it does typically, in my experience, take a little bit longer to get some of these things done at the end of the fiscal year than it might at other times of the year.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar, any follow-up there?
Yes, thank you, Chief of Staff, for clarifying that. I appreciate it. That was my question. Thank you.
Okay, terrific. Other commissioner comments? Okay, I lost track. Did anyone move the order?
I think I.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, I thought so. Commissioner Maestas.
I'll second it.
Commissioner Hall second. Mike, would you take the roll?
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar.
Aye.
Commissioner Fishman.
Aye.
Commissioner Hall.
Aye.
Commissioner Maestas.
Aye.
Commissioner Byrd.
Aye.
The order is approved by a vote of 5-0.
The great journey begins. Okay, from there we're on to item number 8, follow-up discussion on tracking ongoing compliance with commission orders. Says potential action here. Commissioner Maestas, I believe you put this on the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I asked for this, I think a couple of weeks ago, and I think what I had suggested in the form of an initial step is to have a discussion of what we're doing presently, and then that could be a means for us to maybe identify ways we can make our internal compliance process more robust. And so I think that was the first order of business, and from my perspective.
Okay.
And I think I've already stated like many of the issues that have come to light where we haven't quite tracked a lot of these commitments. One of the changes that I've already seen as a consequence of this is OGC is putting a lot of these future compliance requirements that have typically been in the body of the order. They're also kind of listing them in the portion where the decretal paragraphs are, which makes it easier to really find, identify, and track a lot of these compliance requirements in our orders, especially those compliance milestones that are in the future of the order itself. So I think we kind of need to do kind of a forensic assessment of what we're doing now and find out why are some of these compliance issues coming up, what's falling through the cracks. I understand we used to have a compliance, perhaps a bureau that focused solely on that. And I obviously wasn't around when that existed, but we may have to really revisit this and look at our organizational structure. We, by statute, have the authority to organize ourselves in the most efficient manner. There are parts of our organizational structure that are statutory, some that are not. So I see this as a significant issue, and I think that the start should be, a presentation from staff in terms of how does OGC work with utility division to track compliance with commission orders as a start. That's all I had, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Wayne, did you have some comments you wanted to make here?
Yes, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, and actually Commissioner Maestas just said almost exactly what I was planning on saying, so I can be brief. Mike, John, and Brad and I had 2 meetings on this issue since this initially came up, and that's pretty much exactly how we are approaching it. And we think this is the beginning of the discussion and not the end. We certainly aren't bringing any potential action to the commission, but we thought, and I'm going to turn it over to John here in a minute, but we thought we'd talk a little bit about what we've done in the past. Commissioner Maestas is correct. It's also my understanding that in the past we actually had a compliance bureau. I'm not sure exactly why that went away, but it did go away. I think we're doing a lot in terms of compliance and tracking, and John and Mike can speak to that as well. But I think the purpose is to continue this discussion, to get more feedback from the commissioners in terms of what in particular they want us to be paying attention to. And I think that will eventually lead us to some more concrete suggestions and recommendations that we can bring back to the commission. But I do think we'll need a little bit more feedback from the commission and in terms of the focus that you would like us to have. So with that, Mr. Chairman, if it's the pleasure of the commission, I'll turn it over to John, who's done the majority of work in terms of looking at what we do, what we've done in the past, and some ideas in terms of how we can move forward.
Great, thank you. John, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Chair, commissioners, good morning. I spoke with Anthony Cisneros. I think many of you know him. He started working at the commission in 1995, and he left us last year. But I mean, I do recall working with him where he had mentioned the compliance function, and he was very supportive of it and thought they were very productive. So I touched base with him recently, and he did say that there was an in-house compliance function within the agency, that he thinks it was administratively attached to CRD, but he's not entirely sure about that. But he does recall that there were 2 people who actively focused on compliance with the commission rules and compliance with commission orders. The compliance people were routinely communicating with utility division staff, he believes on a monthly basis, to essentially identify and track compliance items. I mean, the ones in the rules, I think once you identify them, until the rule changes, you know what those are. As far as case compliance or final order compliance, those accumulate over time and so that inventory is changing of compliance item changes. And those 2 individuals would develop the communication process with utilities about compliance matters to warn them ahead of time that matters were due. And this was important, not so much for the large seasoned utilities, but for the many small utilities that we regulate. And if at some point in time the compliance matters became more challenging, where things were not happening and so forth, then this matter was elevated for the utility division to consider and try to resolve, with the final measure being the division would file a motion for a petition for order to show cause. So it would elevate it to the commission when it got to a point when it was just not resolvable. Over time, that function dissipated, due to attrition and possibly budget constraints. But Anthony did mention to me that they were a very good resource. They had a library of annual reports and other regular filings that were used as a resource. I mean, again, this is a long time ago when a lot of paper records were kept. So that's kind of the history of compliance, but that probably faded away around 2005 or so. That's our his best estimate of when that changed. And so it essentially just faded away and there's been no dedicated compliance function since then. As far as the present is concerned, what we're doing currently, I mean, from the utility division's perspective, I would say a couple of things. First of all, as you know, we are active in just about every case before the commission. So we prepare our testimony, defend our testimony, and part of our work in cases, and rate cases is a simple example. I mean, we go back to prior rate cases and look at what was in the final order back then, and did the utility comply? And that's kind of a routine element of what goes into staff's preparation of testimony. And the hearing examiners follow understand that function, and it's addressed to the extent it needs to be. And this, as I said, applies to rate cases, or RPS cases that are filed every year. And we just go back and look at prior final orders and try to ensure that what the commission ordered has been followed through on. In terms of, now, I would say that the larger utilities, utilities take their compliance obligations seriously. And clearly, the big boys, they have a sophisticated mechanism to track these and to make sure they comply. I mean, the smaller utilities need more assistance and hand-holding and phone calls and so forth. So there's a range of regulated entities that we deal with in terms of general know-how and sophistication and resources, for sure. In terms of enforcement of compliance obligations, that the commission has some enforcement authority with fines and so forth that Mike can discuss. I mean, it's been my experience in my years with the commission in the last 12, 13 years that the commission is generally reluctant to impose financial penalties. And I don't know for sure. I mean, I would think possibly because it tend to apply more to smaller utilities and co-ops and so forth, where the burden would just be spread among ratepayers. But that's just sort of a generally speculation on my part to that. I've also looked a little bit into what other commissions are doing. I've spoken with, I had email exchanges with Ken Costello, who used to be at the National Regulatory Research Institute. Also exchanged emails with Janice Beecher from Michigan State. She runs the training programs that are NARUC approved. And they generally are saying that, to quote some of their emails, that the monitoring and enforcement is generally diffuse, relies on goodwill, that regulated entities it should be in their interest to be timely and seek an exception if they're going to be late. The whole area of regulatory enforcement is understudied. And so I think they're, I don't know precisely what's happening at other commissions, except for one example, which I can give you here in a moment, but there does seem to be there's not as much of an active function at commissions as we may think. I have touched base with a counterpart of mine on the SPP Southwest Power Pool Working Group. It's the only group I can interact with fellow staff members and other commissions. A lady from the Texas Commission, and they've had an oversight and enforcement division for many years. In 2020, that division was moved to the legal division, and more recently, as it happens, in March, a couple of months ago, they named an individual a deputy director of the legal division with specifically to lead the agency's enforcement efforts. So, in Texas, there seems to be a fairly sustained effort with enforcement. The challenge from Texas, as I'm understanding from others, is that they're limited on how high their fines can go. I think it's $50,000 is the maximum. I'm not sure what it is for this commission. So that's my understanding of what's taking place now. That's what I know is taking place now with the utility division, and my limited understanding of what's taking place in other states, Mr. Chair. So I'm happy to discuss this further. We talked about ideas for the future, but I thought I'd focus on the present, as Commissioner Maestas suggested. Thank you.
Commissioner comments?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Hall?
Well, I think this whole effort is a breath of fresh air. I think we should really get on top of this, and if we need to have an enforcement bureau or, several employees dedicated to that, we should look into that. Certainly, it does help to put everything in the decretal paragraphs on orders, but it shouldn't be hard to tabulate those. You could even just tabulate decretal orders or something to keep a file, and then, have a tickler file to remind people to examine whether or not compliance has occurred. And we really, really, really should be doing it. So I just wanted to say I'm completely in favor of this.
I will just share comments. I 100% agree with you, Commissioner Hall.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we're looking into it. And it does get kind of haphazard.
Well, and apparently so.
Yeah, and we, there's always a way to systematize these things to make sure things do not fall through the cracks. So I'm really happy that Commissioner Maestas raised the issue, and happy to see that Wayne and John, that you're following through in terms of bringing us some ideas about how to do that.
And Mr. Chair, I thought I heard John say toward the end there that a couple of years ago there had been, correct me if I'm wrong, John, that there had been a decision to identify some people and staff attorneys to keep track of enforcement. Is that what you said, John? And what happened to that if it's not happening now? Do we know? Or can Brad respond?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hall, I think what you're referring to is what I learned from the Texas Commission.
Oh, that's right.
They moved their oversight and enforcement division was moved to the legal division.
Oh.
And the legal division, and they recently appointed a deputy director of the legal division whose sole responsibility is enforcement. So
that seems like a good idea.
So I don't think the oversight and enforcement division still exists. I think it's been subsumed in the legal division and now led by a deputy director. But I understand from recent conversations that some of this examination of the commission's enforcement has taken place. A lot of it has taken place since the weather event. with the close examination of the commission's role up until the weather event and what may have gone wrong and what may not have been done and so forth.
Mhm. Well, Mr. Chair, I can understand Texas's sense of urgency there since they had such problems, but I think it's a sense of urgency that we should all share, especially in the same geographic area, subject to the same types of weather patterns. And, so I think it's a good practice. And it's a good practice anyhow, regardless of whether Texas is more interested in it because of their missteps. I think it's just a good practice that we need to have for our general enforcement activities.
Other commissioners?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman.
Let's go with Commissioner Vicente Aguilar first, and then over to Joe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's also telecommunications audit concerns. Just recently, we approved an audit procedure that was not completed since 2017. And our bureau chief, Michael Ripperger, informed us that from now on, it will be done on an annual basis. So this is another concern that needs to be acknowledged by the working group, that not only is it utilities, I believe that we need to include all orders, whether it's telecommunication, transportation, or whatever the cases are. And overall, I think through the years, our staff has been outstanding as far as meeting the compliance on all the orders that the commission votes on. Utility division, the legal division, the hearing examiners, general counsel. Overall, they've been outstanding. And I think very few, one or two cases for the year of 2021 fell through the cracks. And it's only two incidents. And I disagree with my colleagues that it's a problem. It's not a problem. There was only two incidents that fell through the cracks, and that's the reason why this is what we're talking about today. I applaud John Runnell. You're reaching out to every entity possible to get some clarification how we can align our responsibility and how we can establish compliance filing for the whole agency. So I appreciate that, John. And then prior to our chief of staff coming on board, I put in the comment that during an open meeting that we would like our new chief of staff to work on this. It's not I don't think it's a difficult task. It's just a matter of assigning this task to a certain employee so that they can keep track of what's going on, and we'll see how our chief of staff will handle it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Vicente Aguilar. Commissioner Maestas.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I think this is an important issue that requires follow-up by the chief of staff, only because we're just on the front end of a lot of work. A lot of projects are going to be coming our way, especially with the advent of community solar. And so, consistent with Commissioner Vicente Aguilar, I'd like the chief of staff to perhaps give us some recommendations on how we can improve the tracking and compliance enforcement with commission orders in our first July meeting. And I would think that this would require, coordination with OGC, with utility division, and administrative services, because as you said, Mr. Chair, and Commissioner Hall, that, you know, it requires kind of an admin clerical tickler file. Then it requires, there's an enforcement element to this, and perhaps an action, depending on the outcome of the enforcement. And we don't have the luxury budget-wise to, you know, create overnight an immediate full-time equivalent or immediate staff member to focus full-time on enforcement. But what I would recommend to the Chief of Staff is that he perhaps work with human resources to evaluate appropriate job descriptions in those departments that I mentioned, and see if we can't come up with some formal collateral duties, which is consistent with what John had mentioned in terms of, you know, what other states are doing to make, you know, commission order compliance and enforcement a specific job description requirement. And so I think there are ways that we can institute and institutionalize addressing this issue without a lot of cost, at least initially. So I think this will continue to be an issue with the expected future workload. And I think perhaps the Chief of Staff should give us some recommendations in July. That would be my recommendation. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Byrd, did you have any thoughts on this? Oops, I guess not. I'll say a couple thoughts if Commissioner Byrd's trying to unmute or catch up here. It feels to me like I'm hearing two things. One, a couple of short-term steps that can be taken to perhaps review major dockets and see if there are follow-up items that the commission needs to be aware of in terms of following through. And that might include all of the dockets concerning the major IOUs, and that maybe we can get something like a tickler file started on those items fairly short term. And then there's the longer term issue of having the resources to do a more thorough job than just the tickler file, and perhaps be more expansive in the number of issues that that we're covering. And anyway, that's my sense of it. Joe and the rest of the commission, does that track with what you're hearing?
Yeah, I would say yes, but I would like some kind of presentation on some recommendations in early July if possible.
Right. And that's exactly it. And I just wanted to kind of define the work maybe into a short-term bucket and a long-term bucket. And hoping that might be helpful to John and to Wayne and all of our staff in terms of what they present in July. Any further discussion, thoughts?
Mr. Chair, this is Jeff.
Ah, there you are. Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that. Maybe I lean more towards Commissioner Vicente Aguilar's take on this. I realize that some important steps were missed, and we always need to be aware of trying to do things better. But it also seems like maybe we're adding a lot more to this when it could be a simple fix with the calendar apps the way they are now. Why isn't it just on the we put the hearings on the calendars, and notifications come up when emails need to go out, when it needs to be submitted, and all that comes up. And why can't we follow through with afterwards, putting in when everybody should have done this, that, and the other, and the reminders pop up, and just a confirmation call that it happened. Are we doing it? Is it being so that we don't let, because we get busy, and if we don't have those reminders, we forget to go back and look at what we did a year ago. And I do understand that, but seems like just those related to the projects themselves could have those simple reminders to ensure that things are getting done that should have been done. And because whether it's us or the utilities themselves, you get busy on the next case, the next issue, and you forget to go back and follow through. So I'm thinking this should be a simple fix, not a major overhaul of a bureau. Everybody just pick up a little bit of their part of any project and make sure that it's getting done. So anyway, that's my 2 cents worth. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Byrd. Just a quick comment in response. I believe in KISS principles myself, and as in all things that are fairly straightforward and simple, you do a much better job of keeping them in place than things that are complicated and Rube Goldberg. So, I think we should all be taking Commissioner Byrd's comments to heart.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Commissioner Hall.
So I just want to say I agree with that. But I also like the Texas idea of making sure there is a staff attorney to be on top of compliance issues, or else just making it just a higher awareness for the staff attorneys for each case, that it's their responsibility to be sure that compliance has occurred. Because I think compliance ultimately does kind of devolve to the attorneys to take action on. So I don't know, as a former staff attorney and a former ODC attorney, I think that that's probably where that responsibility ought to lie.
Okay. So Wayne and John, has this discussion given you enough direction that you feel like you know where you're going with this?
Mr. Chairman, yes, I think it's, for me at least, I won't speak for John, but it's been very helpful for me. I think a little clearer direction from the commission. I think I have a little clearer direction from the commission in terms of what you would like. I think having something together by July is certainly doable, and also probably a good timing from a budget perspective, because we'll be well into putting together our FY23 appropriation request at that time. And if this is a priority to include in our budget, that's a good time to have that discussion or begin having that discussion. So yeah, it has been helpful. I certainly agree with the comments in terms of I don't think we need to create a whole new division to do this, but having some staff that are really focused on this on a more full-time basis, I think is going to get us probably where we need to go while still keeping it simple.
So it has potential action here on the agenda. So Joe, I'm going to take Commissioner Maestas, I'm going to take this back to you. Is this discussion sufficient, or do you think we need an action here?
No, I think Chief of Staff has kind of laid it out. He believes that he's got a good handle on the scope of what we're expecting in terms of an assessment, maybe some recommendations to, better institutionalize compliance with commission orders. And I think the timeline to him is satisfactory. So I don't think we need any formal vote. I think we have some consensus. And who knows, maybe there'll be just tweaks, and it'll definitely be KISS. We don't know, but I think the Chief of Staff, needs to do the assessment, really find out,
right,
what we're doing as a means to make any kind of improvements.
Okay, terrific. Any further discussion on agenda item 8? Okay, with that, we will move on to item 9, and that's discussion and potential adoption of open meeting schedule for the remainder of 2021. And Wayne, take it away.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we're going to put up that draft proposed schedule. And I believe it was Isaac that brought this to my attention a week or so ago, that in January, Jason and the staff had sat down and put together a draft schedule for the commission's consideration. But for a variety of reasons, the legislative session and of course transitioning to a new chief of staff, I think we just didn't quite get it on the agenda for you to consider. Even though we're almost halfway through the year, we still think it would be a good thing for the commission to have a schedule, both for commission planning purposes, but also for the public. This is a draft. Again, we can change it, modify it. Of course, even once approved by the commission, it's not necessarily set in stone. We can make changes to it as the commission desires. But we did think there's some benefit to having a schedule, a published schedule of upcoming commission meetings. And so that's why this is before you, and happy to answer any questions.
So commissioners, any input here?
Yeah, Mr. Chair. I assume the orange stripes are the weeks that we're not having a meeting. Is that what that indicates?
Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Hall, that's correct. Those are the proposed weeks where we wouldn't have meetings.
And I apologize, but I forget why that's the week. Oh no, I see. That's because of that course. Okay. And in September, there's a week beginning, well, there's a holiday on Monday, the 6th, I think. Is that why we're not having a commission meeting on that week? What's that holiday on September 6th? Is that Labor Day? Is that when we're having Labor Day?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Hall, that's correct. That's Labor Day weekend.
Okay. Oh, I had one, well, this would really just be a rescheduling of a meeting. There is a New Mexico State current events conference that is usually held in April, but they've postponed it till the end of August, August 29th through September 1. And it's always held in Santa Fe. And it is, you know, commissioners and actually lawyers. I think you can get continuing legal education credits for it but it's very, a very big conference. It's always held at the El Dorado, and their last half day falls on, I guess that's September 1, which is a commission meeting day, but I don't think we have to put this in the calendar necessarily, but I wanted to request that we reschedule that meeting to maybe the afternoon because the conference ends in the morning. That would be my only comment.
Commissioner Hall, is this the NMSU sponsored conference? It's annual, yeah.
Yeah, and the morning session is they call it the Commissioner's Grill, but it's basically just it's kind of a discussion of current various. They ask questions, but they get to the meat of a lot of interesting issues that commissioners deal with in kind of a different format. But I found it to be a very productive conversation, actually, very interesting. So it'd be nice to attend that. And I've seen other commissioners there and most of OGC there. So I think it would be worthwhile to just have our commission meeting in the afternoon if we can, so that people who want to attend that conference can do so.
I have one comment on that, is it might depending on what's on that agenda, the afternoon, sometimes we have a big issue and a long meeting. In the afternoon, sometimes might not be enough. So there's kind of two ways to approach it if that were to happen. One is to, go past, go into dinner time, if you will, if the meeting requires it. The other would be to schedule for the morning on Thursday. And so that if there is a need for more time, we don't have to do that. So just another suggestion there.
Sure.
Commissioners' thoughts?
If we're intending
Jeff.
oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, go ahead.
How about, rather than taking the week of the 5th off, that whole week, why don't we do the previous week? It will still incorporate the Labor Day weekend. It'll just put it on the front side of the weekend, so the back end. And then we can attend that NMSU event and not worry about a meeting that week.
There you go. You're so much smarter than us.
So what was the first week you talked about, Commissioner Byrd?
Well, see, on our calendar, it shows the full week of the first full week of September, the week of the 5th, as being no meeting.
Correct.
For the Labor Day.
Yes.
So if we just move that up 1 week so that the last, starting the 29th of August would be orange. Labor Day still on the 6th. So staff and anybody who wants to take a little time off for the Labor Day weekend will have like Thursday, Friday prior to go do something with family, friends.
Perfect.
And we can still do the NMSU seminar in Santa Fe.
Absolutely. Perfect.
Does that work, Miss Chief of Staff?
Yes, I think that works perfectly.
Any other? So there's it appears to be one adjustment. Are there any commissioners who object to that adjustment? Okay, so that's good. Any other thoughts regarding the calendar?
Yeah, Commissioner Byrd, let's move it as amended.
Second.
Mike?
I don't know if we're voting on it, but
I don't.
yeah, it's not an action item, but we're in consensus.
Yes.
I think we can change that without a vote.
Yeah. And if we need to, we can
Vote's
make
not
changes
required.
in the future.
Okay, I just heard Mike in the background saying, vote not required.
It says potential adoption.
Oh, well.
So if we want to be formal about it, we can do a vote just to be sure. First of all, so let's just quick do that. So first of all, we have an amendment to change the week off of the meeting, of the open meeting, from the first full week of September to the initial partial week of September. So I would move that as an amendment to the calendar. Cynthia, would you second, please?
Yes, I'll second, and I would say it's the week beginning August 20. The week beginning August 29th would be the way I would
Beginning
describe it.
August 29th, okay. So we have a motion and a second. Mike, let's take a vote.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner Maestas,
Aye.
Aye, if you ask.
I did. Commissioner Fishman,
Aye.
the vote is 5-0.
Okay.
I just heard a long pause again. I assumed you had asked for me. So thanks.
Any other discussion on the calendar? Okay, let's move forward. And Sarah, can you paste up the agenda again? Thank you. Okay. Next on the agenda, item 10, discussion on potential letter regarding streamlining emergency rental and utility assistance program and other federal relief funds. Commissioner Maestas, would you please take this?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, when we had the workshop to assess the status of small utilities and co-ops and their efforts to get their customers on repayment plans, I believe you have a consolidation of all the responses. But one big takeaway from that is that the federal aid is very slow in getting out to the utilities. The way, for example, the emergency rental assistance program, as we all know, the way it works is the customer has to request the assistance. They have to be a renter and they have to show that they've been impacted by the pandemic. But it's been very, very slow. This is a national problem. And the Biden administration has already taken efforts to try and streamline the requirements for assistance on the renter side. However, the utility side, I believe, is less onerous and less subject to documentation and verification. The problem with rental assistance is it involves the landlord. The landlord needs to be, according to this program, a vendor with the state and has to file a W-9. And so you can see that there's a lot of red tape on the rental side, and it's getting in the way of allocation for utility assistance. And so what this letter does is it's explaining New Mexico's situation and how a lot of the moratoriums and protections that we had in place, at least on the utility side, are expiring. May the 4th, the moratorium, well, we made some exceptions, but the moratoriums are going to be expiring. And people are still, as you can see from the data, the average arrearages are quite substantial. And this is a big problem. And so this is our way of appealing to the administration. And I might say we appealed to the administration back in January, and I believe, Chairman Fishman kind of was the sponsor of that letter asking for utility assistance. Well, now we have it, and it's taking too long. And the big challenge we have here is the state has about $160 million to obligate by the end of the federal fiscal year, which is September 30th, and we're only seeing just a trickle, and progress is much too slow. So we're calling on the Biden and the Treasury Secretary to look at ways to streamline this and perhaps allow even utility companies, and that's what they asked for. They said, can't we bundle these requests on behalf of our customers? And the answer was no. The individual customers have to show, they have to have the initiative to apply for this assistance and then demonstrate that they're eligible for it. And the Department of Finance Administration is the lead agency on this, and they assure us that there's likely enough money to cover these arrearages. And there's additional federal funding coming forward, another $55 million for homeowners. And the Mortgage Finance Authority is going to be leading that effort. And so there's federal money upon more federal money, but there's a problem. It's not getting to those that need it. And so that's what this letter does, is to work on streamlining and reducing a lot of the red tape to get this utility assistance to New Mexicans that need it. In this case, they're renters, but homeowners will also be eligible as well. So anyway, Mr. Chair, it's all there in the letter, and my hope, my appeal is that all of you would sign on to this letter. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you,
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Maestas. Commissioner Hall.
So having read the letter, I definitely want to sign on. I just guess I didn't appreciate how, what a barrier this was. And, it shouldn't be a barrier. People should, if they, know that they're eligible and feel capable enough to, inform the government that they need it, should be able to do it. But often they don't. People are busy just trying to put food on the table and scrabble by. So I'm really dismayed to see this is how this is rolling out. And I had a question for Commissioner Maestas. So if the states don't spend the allocated money, what happens to the money? I assume it has to revert back to the federal government. Is that correct?
Well, I think it may be redistributed to other states that are demonstrating more of an ability to allocate it. The thing is New Mexico really was a leader in launching the emergency rental assistance program. So there probably aren't very many states that are doing better than New Mexico. It's just a consequence of the timing of the federal funding and the requirements to obligate it. Department of Finance Administration has indicated that the federal government may extend the availability of the funds until the end of this calendar year if they can achieve a certain level of allocation. I'm guessing, I think it's about 75%, but so there is a possibility that if we do well enough from now until September 30th, we may be able to get an extension on the availability of the funds, which would really help us get it fully obligated. But that doesn't coincide with the situation that people are facing evictions, facing utility disconnection. If you looked at the information, tens of thousands of accounts are eligible for or have arrears, and only a small fraction are on repayment plans, and most of them are subject to disconnection. So this is a looming problem, and I think we need federal action now to streamline and reduce this red tape before we have a catastrophe on our hands.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Commissioners Vicente Aguilar and Commissioner Byrd, any thoughts? Are you willing to sign on to this letter?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Vicente Aguilar.
Thank you. I think the state of New Mexico did a bit. They're not doing as much outreach as possible. The Zoom calls, like the way we are handling our public meeting, is very narrow communication. I think the government of New Mexico, they need to visit every community. They need to have Zoom meetings with every official around the state of New Mexico. I think they're doing a very poor job, in my observation. We've been in pandemic for almost the entire year of 2020. Now we are in the year of 2021. And what I understand is that we regulate the utility companies and we regulate transportation companies and telecommunication companies. I don't understand why we are really working hard on the renters program. It's the responsibility of the governor of New Mexico. So I disagree with the way that it's being incorporated into our meeting discussions. And it's always the utility companies. They would like a bundle of funding to be approved for them. That's not transparency. And I believe in the federal guidelines that the customers should request it, because a lot of the information is on confidentiality basis according to their income level, so their income status. So, Mr. Chairman, I will not sign on to this letter. It's not our responsibility. It is the responsibility of the governor of New Mexico to push this agenda. So that will be my closing comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Byrd, what are your thoughts?
I find myself agreeing with Commissioner Vicente Aguilar, but I also agree with Commissioner Maestas. One of my concerns is that this is rental assistance, which helps such a limited number of people. Not that they don't deserve help, but I know that the majority of those who are in arrears actually are homeowners. So that they can't apply anyway. I will sign it. Anything we can do to remove bureaucracy and red tape, I'm in favor of. Kind of goes without saying, that's who I am. But I wish we could also push, it's not just renters that are being impacted. It's homeowners. It's everybody. A lot of renters, their electric fees are part of their rent. And so they're paying it every month anyway, especially if you're in an apartment complex or something like that. Utilities are part of the bill. So we're not helping them and we're not helping homeowners. I find that troublesome that only a certain class of people are worthy of assistance. But anyway, I will sign the letter.
So it sounds like there's four of us. I too would sign the letter. By the way, I fully understand what Commissioner Vicente Aguilar is saying, and to a large extent agree with her. On the other hand, to the extent we have this program together, as much as we can, clear the way for people deserving of support to get it, I'm for that. So thank you, Commissioner Montoya, for bringing this, to our attention. And I'll just ask Mike, is there anything where there's four commissioners who want to sign on? This is four commissioners individually signing on?
It's an interesting issue because to some degree it falls outside the commission's statutory regulatory authority, but at the same time it does relate, and it is a commission, a quorum of the commission signing on. So I think as a safe measure, I think it would be appropriate for the commission to take a vote, because it does have a quorum of the commission sending in this position.
Okay. I was kind of hoping to avoid that because, I hate to, if it's outside our normal jurisdiction, I don't want to take a vote that, implies that Commissioner Vicente Aguilar supports the letter if she really doesn't. But on the other hand, if that's the only way we can go forward with the 4, then I would do that. Is there any other option here?
I think the commission, I'm trying to, if somebody could scroll it down to the signatures. Just to make sure I have the right.
Can't you just put 4 names rather than 5 on the signature page?
Because it seems to me each of 4 of us could send our own individual letters.
That's true too.
That is true.
Hey, Mike?
Yes.
I'm okay with the chairman signing it alone. I don't think the letter, declares any kind of unanimous vote or assistance, but, we can qualify it. But I mean, if it comes from the chair, maybe that'll address this whole issue of only having a portion of the commission sign it. Would that be okay? And I'm asking the chairman and Mike Smith.
I believe the commissioner, I think the commissioners, the chairman rather, excuse me, could do that.
I don't understand that. It seems to me that gives the impression that the chairman is speaking for the rest of the commission. The way it reads, it says, it reads as if all of the commissioners are expressing this view. And if it's only signed by the chairperson, I think that does compromise Commissioner Vicente Aguilar's wish not to be a signatory, because it implies that she is. I think it's better if the people supporting it sign it, and if they don't support it, they don't sign it, and they don't need to have a signature line showing that they didn't. They just didn't.
I guess what I'm wondering, Mike, is what's the downside? Who could object? What are the consequences if somebody comes up and says this isn't totally according to Hoyle, or decides to make an issue of it? I guess what I'm seeing is I can't imagine anybody having the time to spend the effort to focus on that. And I don't see as a practical matter any potential negative consequence coming to the commission if 4 of us just sign off on it. I feel that gives due respect to Commissioner Vicente Aguilar's position, and I just don't see what anyone would do or what consequence we would potentially face if we did it that way.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to throw in too, I don't think it's beyond our authority. I think it's related to our regulatory authority over utilities, because there will be consequences to ratepayers if utilities don't get this money. And, my concern is stemming from that, and also for the fact that the customers do need assistance, but our responsibility goes to the effect on ratepayers. So I think it's perfectly within our authority.
Commissioner Byrd, did you have a comment?
No.
Oh, I heard a voice. Was that
Mr.
Joe?
Chair, Commissioner Maestas, yeah.
Commissioner Maestas, okay.
I would recommend that if you look at the signature line, and I know Mike was focusing on it, if we just delete New Mexico Public Regulation Commission and just include the 4 of us that are going to sign it.
Yeah.
That was actually going to be my suggestion.
I think that I'm good with that. Commissioner Hall, you're good with it?
Yes, I am.
Commissioner Byrd?
Yeah, and that's fine.
Okay. Do we need to take a vote on this, Mike?
I think my understanding was that the intention was to not, to send this out with each of the commissioners individually signing off on this. So based on that, if that's still the way the commission wants to go, then that's the reason I think we're doing that.
Okay, so it sounds like we're good. We've got four commissioners signing on.
Yeah.
And it sounds like we're ready to go on to the next item. And so please get that sent out as quickly as possible. And what are we on? Discussion items. And I put this on here because I felt there might be some misunderstandings about what this amendments to the integrated resource plan rule is all about. And just from hearing comments around. And I wondered if it would make sense to have a short discussion to clarify what the changes in the rule actually do. Because it seemed to me as I was hearing buzz is that somehow what's happening with the rule would bring back the integrated resource plan to this litigious process that existed a while back that didn't seem to bring any tangible positive results. And I think that is a gross mischaracterization of what this rule does. And I thought it might be good not to go through the details of the rule, which that'll be scheduled for May 26th, I believe. But that it might be good to have a little bit of discussion about what the rule's trying to accomplish and why it's being revisited. And quite frankly, it's much bigger than the IRP as we've known it. And it's also much more streamlined. So at any rate, yeah, Commissioner Hall, did you want to make some comments on this, or does this feel like worthwhile to cover or not in terms of where you are?
Well, you know, I think you're free to say anything you want to say. We're very close to having it done. I think we'll have one more meeting and then we're done preparing the draft that I can circulate to all the commissioners. And, you know, we're planning on having it on the docket on the 26th for approval for NOPR. And then, you know, we don't have the process firmly delineated, but I think it would be desirable to have some workshops as well as issue it as a NOPR. And my understanding from General Counsel was that we should issue it as a NOPR rather than have the workshops first. So that's why we're doing it that way. But no, I'm interested to hear what you have to say. I mean, I agree that it's not just the IRP rule. It also incorporates components that relate to procurement. So it's not, I think it's an improvement on the IRP rule, given the state of regulatory activity we're at now that flows from the mandates under the ETA for the increase in the renewable portfolio standard and the types of procurements that are necessarily dictated by that. So I think it's very different from the rule that we proposed before. And I think I personally don't believe that it will return us to some state of litigation that occurred in the past, because the facts and our whole regulatory landscape was very different then. That was at a time, that litigation occurred at a time when renewable energy wasn't competitive in price, or was just becoming competitive in price, and the litigation occurred largely around the issue of what were feasible alternatives. And that's not the case now. We have much more clarity on the value of our alternate, well, they're no longer considered alternate resources, solar and wind. They're as mainstream as the other resources. So I don't think that this is going to be a move to the past, if that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But by all means, proceed.
Well, so
want to say,
you know, as I've been working on it some particularly lately, and actually in the next couple of days, hopefully we'll finalize kind of the general structure more. And certainly it's a rule that once it goes through the NOPR, it will be subject to lots of input and adjustments.
and workshops, yeah.
And workshops, through workshops and other means as well, comments. Right. But, you know, I look at this rule, and one thing that I know that I've wanted to try and accomplish is get the commission on a working basis that is more, that moves from reactive to more proactive. It seems like in so many cases, we're on our heels when it's time to make a decision, and the decision is in front of us at a point in time where our ability to influence it in the public interest is quite limited. And so I think what we're moving towards when we're doing this rule in terms of procurement is moving the ball in the direction of getting the commission and stakeholders, for that matter, outside of utilities, in a position where they can be more proactive with their input rather than reactive. And I'll just give a few concrete examples so we're not talking at 30,000 feet. We've got a current issue in front of us, which John Reynolds and staff had brought it up, and that's the Facebook approval. And, you know, we've got a couple of, a lot of capacity here, storage, two significant sized solar plants. And we're in the position now of rushing through with the last minute hearing in front of the commission because theoretically we don't have time. I hadn't had any advance notice that these particular transactions were underway. I didn't have any advance notice that there was storage, and that the storage was going to be a systems asset. And now at the last minute, we're seeing all of this. One of the things this rule would do is say, gee, let's have a plan where the IRP identifies these kinds of needs up front, and that when there's a procurement underway, we're aware of it. The commission's made aware that an RFP is going out. I'm going to go back to the replacement for San Juan case, where there was an RFP issued that was, I think, somewhere between 18 months and 2 years old before the commission or the public even saw, or stakeholders even had an opportunity to look at what the results of that RFP were. And Mike, I had asked you at the time, gee, can't we see the results of what the RFP is so that we have some idea of where this replacement assets proposal is going to go? And the answer I got back was, well, no, there's nothing in the rules that allows us to see what the results of that RFP were. And Mike, am I stating that correctly?
You're testing my memory as to a prior conversation. But I mean, I think you.
So my question is
I hesitate to give you an answer on that.
So if there's an RFP, well, we didn't get an answer for 1.5 or 2 years, and I had asked several people in the agency. I can't believe we don't have the power to see what this RFP is. And at the time, there was legislation being discussed. There was the Energy Transition Act. And there was all this information about how much resources would cost that legislators didn't even have access to. That was done in an RFP. And the RFP was already there. And that information was being withheld from legislators who from my discussions with them, many of them thought, gee, we need to pass this bill as an incentive to do renewables. When if they'd seen the RFP, they might have had a very different view. They might have said, gee, these bids are so low, why are we making concessions to a utility to get the cheapest resource? And my discussions with legislators are because, in my view, utilities hid the ball on what kinds of quotes they had. The legislature had incomplete information when it was passing that legislation. And absolutely contrary to any rule of transparency. So not only did it hamstring the commission, it hamstrung our policymakers while utilities were withholding this information. So this rule would basically create a process by which that RFP information gets distributed timely so that the commission can be ahead of the game rather than behind the game. In recent cases, we've had RFPs issued in a couple of cases where after the ETA was passed, there was a failure to send out an updated RFP. And we had a procurement process by utility going underway that our own hearing examiners, and this was our recent EPE case, by the way, determined that, gee, this RFP didn't even comport with the ETA as passed. And there'd been no prior review of the RFP to be sure that it basically hit the basic, legal requirements, or that it served commission requirements. So this rule would put in a step that allows stakeholders and the commission to quick review an RFP and make comments about what its shortcomings are ahead of time, so that we don't face these issues down the road and then we have to deny something because it was done improperly. Or that we can't deny it because it's so far down the road, timing doesn't give us a choice. So again, the commission gets stuck because we're being reactive instead of proactive. So what I want to point to is right now, there's not transparency on RFPs to be sure they follow the law. There's not transparency on RFPs to be sure that they're fair. Anyone who's worked in a procurement position recognizes that RFPs can be manipulated and that they can tilt the playing field ahead of time. And the commission has no visibility on these RFPs. In fact, oftentimes RFPs are issued and the commission has no knowledge of it. So much of the rule is about creating the kind of transparency that brings everyone on board with what's going on in the marketplaces, what the cost of resources is, what the needs are for resources. And it also addresses the issue of what in the past has been a situation where utilities present projects or plants, ideas to build plants that they bring to us one at a time. And each one's approved kind of separately in its own little silo. It provides a mechanism that makes sure that we're looking at the whole picture and we're harmonizing the procurement so that we're getting the best portfolio. And right now, there's nothing in the rules that allows us to require that. And this puts things in place that creates a situation where each decision is being made in the context of a full portfolio of resources rather than dribs and drabs one at a time. So my point is that we've had recent issues where RFPs have been inappropriate. We have not known that they're coming out, where the public and the commission's not aware of costs and has been forced to make decisions in the dark because we haven't had a rule that requires that kind of transparency. And that this rule, when we've got it set up, addresses all of those issues and allows the commission to get ahead of issues rather than catching up from behind. And it's not simply just dusting off the IRP. It's putting the commission, the intent is to put the commission in a position where it and stakeholders can actually influence the process when the input makes a difference. And I'm hoping that people will, when they get this rule, and read it, look at it in that context. And by the way, you will see that there are provisions in there that are specifically there to prevent the kind of endless litigation that has happened on IRPs in the past. So I just wanted to urge people to keep an open mind when they get this rule, because a lot of good thought has gone into it. A lot more good thought will go into it if we get it to a NOPR. And I think it'll make everyone's job, it'll help everyone in the commission be more effective and more efficient. So there are my thoughts. Commissioner Hall, and you know, you've been working on this. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, one thing you said was a little bit inaccurate. You said recently we haven't known what are in RFPs that are issued by the utilities. It's always been the case that we haven't known what's in their RFPs. We've always been in the dark about what their RFPs have contained. And it's impossible to be sure that procurements have been conducted without some manipulation, unless you can see in advance what RFPs look like. And, other states, they have, like Colorado, they have a hearing dedicated to more than a hearing. It's like a whole collaborative process wherein they're interveners and stakeholders all participate in what the utilities RFP should look like and say before it even gets issued. And we're just the opposite. Right now, we're just completely in the dark. So that's the only thing I've had.
Yeah, and this rule does not create a whole new approval for that. It just gives people an opportunity to review it ahead of time and comment on the shortcomings.
Right.
And without turning it into a hearing. But it does put the onus on the utility to respond to those comments to be sure they don't face a problem down the road when they need approval.
Correct. Oh, and also it's not just recent that, we've suspected that RFPs have been manipulative. That's been an issue, as long as 10 years ago. Well, 6 or 7 years ago, anyhow, that's been an issue. So,
and again,
I'm looking forward to bringing it to the commission so they can read it and we can have a full-blown discussion about it. But I definitely think you've hit on really good points about it. And I really feel our commission is becoming more proactive. And, I hope we can continue in that vein in this area because it really needs our attention. So,
yeah.
That's all I have to say.
So anyway, I'm hoping as we get that out to you prior to the May 26th discussion, that you'll be looking very carefully at all the things it does to make sure that the commission is ahead of the game rather than playing catch up and being rushed into decisions that are maybe poor decisions and maybe not getting complete information because the core vehicles that give us the information for a procurement decision really come out of well-managed RFP and fair RFP process that addresses very carefully the needs that we've identified that the utility needs to address. And we don't have that now, and that's what the rule strives to get us to. So just to create the context around that rule and hopefully clear up any misunderstandings there might be about what its true intent is. So I'll leave it there. There's our not so elevator-ish speech, but anyway, if there are any questions from commissioners or thoughts, please tell us, and if not, we'll just move on.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Byrd.
Just one quick question returning to the agenda. It says potential discussion. What was the likelihood that you weren't going to talk about this?
I was kind of waiting to see what Cynthia said. But you can't take away my opportunity to pontificate.
Well, I didn't put it on the agenda.
I put it on the agenda. But anyway.
That was more like a filibuster.
Okay, I'm sorry if I took too long. But I just wanted to point out there are real problems that this rule is trying to solve. And I was just hearing buzz that somehow that wasn't the case. So wanted to get it out there. Okay, communications with Chief of Staff.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, I don't really think I have anything this morning. I'm certainly happy to respond to any questions that commissioners have. I had mentioned last week that I'd like to touch base with everyone individually before I go on leave next week, and I still plan to do that. So you'll hear from me at some point between now and Friday, just for a quick check-in. But other than that, Mr. Chairman, I think I'm good today.
Thank you.
Chair, I have a question for Chief of Staff. Just one.
Sure, go ahead.
So when you come back from Africa, will you give us a slideshow?
Absolutely,
Or
Mr.
maybe
Chair.
take some movies, take some videos, something.
I'll be happy to do that.
I've
Mr.
never been there. I'd love to see something about it.
Yeah, and we need to see at least one of you riding an elephant and another of you riding a lion.
Okay, fair enough.
At the same time.
There you go.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar.
Yes, thank you very much for allowing me time to speak to our Chief of Staff. I know, Wayne, you have joined us not too long ago, and I think you're working really hard. This is my sense. You're working really hard behind the scenes. You're getting acquainted with all the staff members, and I like your communication in writing. I appreciate that. And I would like for you to just not worry about Public Regulation Commission when you go on your vacation. Put it in the hands of Brad, and because when you come back, we want to work. We want to start working on hard issues, and as far as reorganizing or reassigning tasks at the agency. So I'm so glad you're with us as our Chief of Staff, and I look forward to working with you the rest of the year. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, on to communications with General Counsel.
Mr. Chairman, I think Judy has something she would like to address.
Yes, commissioners, I just wanted to remind you, because we're not having a meeting on May 19th, which was just canceled, that on May 26th, we have scheduled a hearing on the ZIA natural gas request regarding its passing on the extreme weather event costs to its customers. And staff will be filing later this week their recommendation, whether to approve, not approve, approve with conditions, whether or not to have a hearing. And I had anticipated bringing the issue of whether or not to have a hearing before the commission on May 19th. But since we're not having a meeting, the hearing will not be canceled, and it will go on regardless, unless you all have schedule another meeting or something to act upon that to cancel the hearing.
Anybody feeling like we need to cancel that hearing?
Mr. Chair, are you referring to canceling the ZIA hearing?
This is on the 26th. And I'm trying, is that the Facebook hearing, Judy?
No, ZIA natural gas.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and it's their extreme weather
Right.
weather event costs.
Right.
And you might recall in a prior case, there was a financing case that we had dealt with, but now this is their adjustment of their PGAC case. And we have a hearing scheduled. So I was just basically reminding the commission that we will be having a hearing on May 26th, because the date that we could have canceled it, May 19th, has been canceled by the commission.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, I thought it was a good use of time to put that hearing on that date. I don't think we should cancel it.
I'm still fine with it personally.
Yeah.
Any other commissioner perspective on that? Okay, speak up or I'm going to launch into another filibuster. Okay, we're going to go to communications with commissioners.
Mr. Chair, I don't have anything.
Okay, I'm good too. Not hearing anything, I think we're ready to adjourn. And so we will. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. See you guys.
Thank you. Bye.